Hello, Heartbeats. Once again, you are joined with the Heart Lady, and I am here with the absolutely, as you know, all my guests are wonderful, but this one is also even more wonderful. This this is a colleague of mine, and we're talking about coaching and wellness and how to. There are different ways that we can um, find healing, find wellness, find balance. And there are different coaches who have different ways of showing that. So you've heard of many coaches, many specialists and experts, and there are different niches, even within the same niche, people deliver differently. And so I'm here to introduce to you another coach. She is actually called a chief wellness officer. All right, fancy name for a fancy person. This is Annetta Hunter, and I'm going to let you hear a little bit about her company and how she helps to serve and support you. Annetta,
Yes. Hello. Hello. How are you, Sharon?
I am doing so well, thank you. Tell
Awesome.
us, tell me, how do you support and serve others?
Well, through my corporate wellness business, my focus is on serving those who deal with a lot of stress. I was also one of those people in my past working in corporate America in many different capacities. There's been many opportunities where I wish that I had had someone like myself available. And, I discovered that being a coach is really an organic thing. Some
Mm,
coaches are just grown organically because they
yeah,
realize that there's a missing link. And that's what I discovered in the corporate wellness arena, that within a corporate office, you have a structure that really does not always support the employee through what they're going through. And whether it's professional or personal stress, it affects their performance. And when you have that situation, they pretty much suffer in silence. Um,
absolutely.
you
Because
know,
I hear all the time, don't bring your personal issues to work. And that is just not a reality.
it's
We like
not.
to say it, but as work and stress is stress. And when you're stressed at home, you're stressed at work, they
Yeah,
all kind of collide.
they do in one way or another. Now, a lot of people are good at wearing a mask, and they could be at work and have that smile on their face, but behind that, they are just crying
Yeah,
and crying out for help. So I felt, there needs to be someone there to help them, someone they trust, someone that they know that is going to support them no matter what it is, small or large. It's going to be available to them. And, I really thought about it and said, EAP, which is an employee assistance program, that really has a lot of a stigma associated with it, because most people believe that, oh, well, my problem's not that big, and I don't want HR to find out I'm going to a psychiatrist. It
right.
really carries a lot more weight and a
Yeah, I'm
lot
having
more.
therapy.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
can be a bad thing if they're trying to climb the ladder.
yeah,
So coaching today has become so, I think, more accepted, more understood in certain respects, because people are just trying to get better.
yeah,
And no matter what capacity that better is, they're trying to help themselves. So
absolutely. So
that's
tell
what.
me, do you work in groups? You go into an employee's, do you work with the leadership and teach the leadership to work with their staff? Or do you go in and just talk with um, in group settings? Tell me a little bit, how do you help them?
I help with all of those, all of the above, so to speak.
Mm,
I do start with leadership, because the leadership is who is going to drive the acceptance of getting coached. A lot of employees look to the leadership to say, is it okay? Just like children look up to their parents, is it okay to do such and such? Do you approve? And so from there, after the leadership has really accepted and created this culture, of support for the employees, then they're feeling a lot better about reaching out and saying, hey, I do need to schedule a session with you.
Right.
I'm going through this or that. So I do also, because leadership sometimes is not always the best at communicating with their subordinates. That's a very important area, because I've dealt with that personally. And some
Yeah.
leaders are not great communicators. That's just not their forte sometimes.
Yeah.
So I believe that being able to bridge that gap between the two, and bring them together in a very cohesive and a holistic way, it really, really makes for a better environment for them to work in
And
together.
so that falls under the umbrella of the new terminology, but really not so new, but emotional intelligence, the
Right.
emotional quotient rather than the IQ, the intelligent quotient, because
That's right.
you can teach a skill,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
but we have a lot of people have not been learned how to manage their personal emotions, but then also to be able to recognize the recipient of who they are talking with, and how and what they must be going through, and how
Oh,
to communicate and relate in a way that they can truly um, accept, and not even accept, but have a better understanding of what they are trying to talk about.
totally. That is exactly right. And,
Mhm.
I've dealt with, I believe that I almost had to teach some of my previous employers, because they're, you go through different levels of different things. And I was very aware, because this is an area that I'm training in. And I
Mhm.
said, you're not actually being very fair to all of the people in the office. You come and you talk to everybody else, but there's this other group over here you just ignore and walk by them, and you don't even stop and say, hi guys, how are you doing? you
Yeah.
know and we
Hmm.
were of a different persuasion,
Yeah.
and that made for division in the
Yeah.
office. And
Yeah.
she, basically it was like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that, or I didn't know you wanted to talk to me. I didn't want to
Yeah.
know you wanted to get to know me. But I'm like,
Yes.
of course.
And once people do, because I
Mhm.
had the opportunity to work in a place where, as a healthcare professional, where all the doctors, we call them by their first name basis. We didn't
Mhm.
call Doctor so and so. It's
Right.
because of that. They wanted to be able to relate and not have that hierarchy where you were too
Mhm.
scared, or to
Yes.
be real and
Right.
authentic,
Mhm.
and because that trickles down into patient care. So I
Right.
totally admire what you do. So you said you do a little bit about your work is surrounded around stress management. So what can you offer those that are working in corporate as stressed out because the crisis that we're going through, someone working remotely from home and working remotely from home with children
Mhm.
who are working
Oh, yeah. I'm going through
virtually.
that
So we
myself.
got all these dynamics happening.
Mhm.
And yeah, and of course, we heard meditate, we heard do this, do exercise, do that. What
Mhm.
practical advice can you help that they can apply in the workplace?
Oh, definitely. Well, the one thing I've discovered is everybody needs somebody to talk to. That's number one. And if they feel comfortable talking to someone who they can trust and say, well, they're not going to go back and tell somebody else, I feel relaxed and able to talk to you. That's number one. The other thing that I use as a tool is also meditation and hypnotherapy. So
Mm,
hypnotherapy is kind of a new thing, and I believe a very unique tool that you could bring to the corporate arena, because it's sort of one of those tools that people look at as being a little, the usual woo-woo thing.
mhm,
But
mhm.
it's really not. It's really a brain science, and it's really about understanding what's going on with the mind and how we process information and how we take care of different things going
Working
on
from
in our
home, that's
world.
quite all right.
Okay, honey, Christian, honey, I'm in a taping. Okay, quiet. It's trouble with working
That's
at home
okay.
with the
So
kids.
folks know how authentic this is. And
Yes,
that's it. But
that's
how
true.
we just transition and continue
Yes.
on.
there you go. It's life. It's
It's
what
life,
we are
right?
dealing with right now. That's it. So,
And then,
but anyway, so the hypnotherapy really works
yeah,
well, and especially when people are dealing with motivation,
yeah,
anxiety, depression,
yeah.
dealing with trying to quit smoking. There's so many addictions and things that it
That's
can
right.
help.
Yeah.
So it really does work.
So I really wanted to touch back on when you said hypnotherapy.
Mhm.
I can imagine how the eyes open where you get this dear look when you say to corporate, well, I'm going to be talking a little about hypnotherapy because it does have such a stigma behind it. People
Right.
hear hypnotherapy and they think, oh, you're going to make me bark like a dog, quack like a duck, right? But they don't really understand the science and how that can. So, how do you relay that to a CEO?
Right. Well, that's a great question, first of all, because, it is one of those things people really don't, it's a misnomer to them. And all they've seen is what's on TV. So I explain it to them like it's a form of deep meditation. So you're really just quietening the mind. You're allowing the subconscious to come forward. And, if there is an addiction or there's an anxiety issue, I get to the actual core and the beginning of that problem and transform it and heal it. And that's where it's all about your brain actually will do whatever you tell it to do.
Mhm.
So that's the fascinating science part that I love about
Yeah.
this. And it's just one of those things you just have to say, okay, sometimes it takes something outside the box to actually, work.
Yeah,
And you just
to
have
make
to,
that change. That's
yeah,
right. And
right.
it is not just a temporary fix. It is something that actually does work.
Mhm.
I'm very familiar with hypnotherapy. I find it very useful in my coaching as well.
Oh,
And
that's
so I find it fascinating that you are bringing that to the corporate world and doing it in such a manner. It is really needed there. And
thank
so
you.
I really appreciate this time for you kind of breaking the ice and letting people know that there are many different ways in order to be more productive, be more successful, enjoying your life, decreasing the stress, which is the number one thing that leads people in the hospital, right?
Yes. Oh my
And yeah,
goodness.
so you said talk to find someone. I find a lot of times people are saying, well, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want them to know my business.
Right.
Um, but it's so important that we do find
Hmm.
someone else
Yeah.
in the job, not outside the job, but
Yeah.
in the workplace.
That's
And
right.
even if you're working virtually, you can call someone that's working within your company because you have to
Yeah.
have someone to vent to. And if
Absolutely.
you maintain the confidentiality,
Yes.
that
Very.
that you'll get reciprocity with that.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Exactly. You're exactly right, because HIPAA is it's serious thing. I have been trained and gone through certifications for HIPAA for many,
Mhm.
many years. So I'm very
Yeah.
familiar. And it means a lot to me, to people, that people know that is a consecrated time that we spend talking, and the information goes nowhere else.
Mhm.
It is right there, and it remains between us. And
Right.
HR, no one knows what we're talking about.
Talking about
No one knows you're
beautiful.
even seeing me unless you want them to know. So it's all according to your comfort.
Well, thank you. So we are coming to an end. I'd love for you to tell us how we can get in contact with you, especially for those that are working in the corporate arena, or even if they have a small business. I'd like for people to realize that this is just not about corporate, but this is about entrepreneurs and business owners. So how can they get in contact with you, Annetta?
Well, my website is wellnowconsultants.com. And you can get in touch with me directly by my email, ahunter@wellnowconsultants.com, or my phone number, 502-416-2665.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Before you
you.
leave, I always ask my guests, what do you do to take care of your heart?
Oh, that's so important. The way I take care of my heart is always stay centered in spirit. That's number one, because without having that centered spirit, then, things just fall apart. The other is getting enough exercise and feeding your body the right information or right foods and nutrients. So,
Nutrients. Mm-hmm.
yes. And,
Yes.
Laughing. You got to laugh.
You got to laugh. You got to bring the humor in it, definitely.
Oh.
Well, Heartbeats, you've heard it from the expert, the chief wellness officer who is bringing hypnotherapy and mindfulness and meditation and how to communicate with your teammate in the corporate arena, in your small business. So thank you so much, Annetta.
Thank you.
Heartbeats, as usual, take care of your heart and your heart will take care of you.
Let's see.